Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. So in this video, I would like to sort of officially introduce you to Xcode. So what is Xcode? So Xcode is the integrated development environment used to build iOS applications. In this course, this is the tool provided by Apple, which we're going to be using to build iPhone applications. Naturally, it would be a good idea to look at Xcode for a little bit so you know your way around Xcode. So the first thing we need to do, obviously, is to go ahead and open our Xcode. And how we do that? Simply, in my case, I have pinned it here. As you can see, I have my Xcode on my desktop around here. And the other thing to notice here is that it says Xcode Beta. At the time of this recording, Xcode Beta, which is what we have, what we're going to be using. Eventually, in the coming months, they will probably have the final Xcode version for us. But for now, this is what we're going to be using, which is Xcode Beta. All right. So you want to click on that. In your case, in any case, you may have had pinned this app here, the Xcode app, somewhere else in your computer. Just go ahead and find where you put it and just click it or to fire it up. It may take a few minutes to load up, nonetheless, and there we go. Now, if you try to open it and this is what you see, it may ask you to install additional requirement components. So it may say Xcode requires additional components to support running and debugging. Choose install to add requirement components. If that's what's happening, you go ahead and just say install. And this again may take a little while, and it will ask you to put the password to your admin system, the password which will allow you to install things if you have your computer set up that way. In this case, I do, so I need to enter my password for things to start installing. And as you can see, it's saying installing components. Okay, this is perfectly normal, and it may take a few minutes. So if you have some other chores you need to do right now, just go and do them, and come back when all of this is done. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. So once you have let Xcode install all of those components that are required, this is what you're going to be able to see, this welcome window here. Now notice something very interesting here. Once I hover over this window, at the bottom here, it says show this window when Xcode launches. At the bottom of check out an existing project, you will see here. So show this window when Xcode launches. So you can, if you want, you can actually unselect this, which would mean that every time Xcode start, every time you go and click and fire up your Xcode IDE, you won't be able to see this window here. Okay, that's your preference. But I like to have it checked because I always like to see this beautiful, I always like this welcome window to show. And also you notice on the right of this welcome to Xcode text and icon here, you'll see that I have a few projects here. If you've just installed Xcode and haven't gone through creating a new project, you pretty much won't have anything here. I do have a few here because obviously I have installed Xcode a while back, and I have a few things here. These are projects, right? So as we create more projects, they'll be populated here. So now you can only see there's 5 projects here. If we had 10 projects, all of them will show here. And also at the bottom of our welcome to Xcode here, you will see there is this get started with playground. We'll talk in the next videos, and then create a new Xcode project. Okay, and also you have this check out an existing project. Don't worry too much. We'll talk maybe later about this. So for now, just forget about this. Okay, so create a new Xcode project. That means you can click on this, and then you can create a new Xcode project, which is essentially what we will be doing to make our iOS 9 applications, right? But the same thing you can do by going here, just click File, you can say New Project. This IDE provides us many different ways to do the same thing, which every great IDE should do. Again, an IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Essentially, it's a tool that, in this case, Apple created for us developers so that we can make iOS applications. All right, so let's go ahead and for now, go ahead and create a new Xcode project so that I can show you the actual Xcode editor. So let's go ahead and say create, and there it is. Okay, so we come to this window here, and right away you notice there's a lot of options here. At the top here says choose a template for your new project and gives you an option. It says iOS and OS X. And you may ask, what is this OS X? I have no idea what that is. OS X is the operating system of a Mac, right? So if you have a Mac computer, it runs OS X. It's an operating system. Turns out that this IDE, Xcode here, also allows you not only to create iOS applications, but also allows you to create applications for Mac, which we are not going to be doing in this course. I just wanted to let you know that this same tool is used to create applications that run on the Mac, on the OS X operating system on Mac computers. Also, you notice here there's Watch OS, so you can also use the same Xcode to create applications for your Apple Watch. We are interested in this iOS here. If you look here to the right, once you click iOS, either go to iOS and click application or just stay at iOS. In my case, since we need an app, we're going to go to application. You see there's different options here to start your project. It says here master detail application. Don't worry, we will get into a lot of details on all of this. And it says here page-based application, and there's this one single view application, and there's this tabbed application, and there's also game. So you would imagine this game is what we're going to be using to create a game, right? Because it has all of the libraries, all of the necessary tools that will allow us, developers, to make game quicker and more efficiently. Okay, so all of this is just a way that Xcode is set up to say, okay, so you want to create an application. Okay, what kind of application you want to create? Oh, well, I want to create an application for iOS, which means for devices, Apple device. Okay, great. Now, in that category, what you need to start with, you may say, well, I want to start with just a master detail application or a page-based application, or in our case, we're just going to go with single view application. And the good thing also, as you notice, as you click through these different options here, right, templates, you notice at the bottom here, it gives you a little bit of explanation. Page-based application tells you here, this template provides a starting point for page-based application that uses a page view controller. And of course, I don't expect you to know what a controller is now. And so we click the single view and we say next. Now we are presented with this screen here, which says product name. A product name is essentially the name of your application, right? Because again, if you're making an application, that is a product. That is something that eventually you want to sell or you want to allow people to download it all over the world, right? You put it in the App Store and you have people using it. That's the idea. So essentially that is indeed a product. So essentially for the product name, you put whatever you want, but something related to what you're building. In our case, we're not necessarily building anything at this point. We're just going through and learn a little bit about Xcode here. So product name, we're probably going to say my Xcode. Oops. Okay, and you see here organization name, there's probably shown, and Xcode went ahead and populated it in here, okay? Yours may have your name or something else, but you can change this, obviously. You can put whatever you want. I'll just put my name. You can put your name or your company name or whatever you wish, okay? Now, this organization identifier is very important because what this is a unique identifier that will be attached to your application. So why is it important to have a organization identifier? Each application has to have a unique ID attached to it. This will be more clear once we get to the point where we want to upload our application to the App Store. We have to make sure that this, whatever we put in here, is unique to this application only. Because we wouldn't want to have, in fact, Apple wouldn't allow you to upload an application that has an identifier that has been used already. Meaning that if you were to use the same identifier and make an app and then try to upload the app to the App Store, and then I also have the same organization identifier, it will give you an error. Why? Because it will say, well, Paolo has already created an app with the same identifier, which means something is not right. So this is very important, and as you can see here, usually the recommendation is to use a reverse domain name, meaning that, as you can see, I have a company called Magadi Studio, and what I do, I said com.magadistudio. and then the name of the app that I am building. For you, you don't have to have a business or anything application, but you can put whatever you want. But this is just a recommended way, and you can make stuff up. You can say com.mygreatapplication. and then put the name of your application. But remember, it always has to be unique. That's very important. Okay, great. So in this case, I'm just going to get rid of this last part here because I'm going to say my Xcode. So now here it says language. Well, language in this case is what we're going to be using to build our application. If you click here in this drop down to the right here in this drop down menu, you notice something very interesting. It says here Swift, and also there's an option of Objective-C. Why is that? Well, it turns out Swift is a very new language built by Apple that is being used to kind of transition from Objective-C. So before and even today, there's a lot of people who still use this language here, an older language from Apple called Objective-C, which was used to make iOS and OS X applications. But now we're transitioning to Swift, which is the newest language created by Apple. This is what we're going to be using, Swift. And device, you can just say either iPhone or iPad. In this case, we're going to say universal, which means the application we're going to be building ideally will be working on both iPhones and iPad. And just leave everything else as it is and say next. Once you say next, Xcode will ask you, okay, where do you want this project to be saved? So what I would suggest you do, go into your documents and create a folder called iOS projects. And at the bottom here, it says source control. For now, just uncheck that and just say create. And in a few seconds, you will notice there we have it. Now you have Xcode editor actually showing. So this is the tool, the actual Xcode per se. This is where we're going to be able to create our applications, debug it, and literally build everything from ground up. So this is our Xcode. All right. So in the next video, we'll continue and go a little bit deeper on our editor here, our Xcode IDE. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.